Welcome back. So, I really wanted to talk heavily about Neptune moving into Aries, which is happening in a few weeks on January 26th. We got a little taste of it in 2025 when Neptune and also Saturn came into Aries for a little while before they retrograded back into Pisces. But now that they're both going to be moving into Aries for good, meaning they're not going to return back to Pisces for a very long time, um, the energy is going to feel a little more permanent, which is good. Okay, we're not going to have this um, like tidal pull that kind of pulls us back into whether it's old patterns or old places or dealing with old issues or whatever the case may be. And being that it's Aries, there's going to be just so much more forward motion through 2026. And I think that's one of the most positive things about the year in general. So we're going to kind of go through, a little bit of history where we've been, maybe not history, reflection, okay? We're going to reflect a little bit on the past 14 years or so when Neptune was in Pisces. So specifically regarding manifestation more than anything, okay? So these things that I'm about to talk about, right? These bullet points: visualization, intuition, the law of attraction, waiting for signs, trusting the universe to handle the how, and divine timing. All of those, I'm sure, sound familiar. You've probably worked with all of these in some way, shape, or form. And it's not as though they're no longer relevant or no longer important, because yes, they absolutely still are. But the times are definitely shifting. And in order to actually create and bring things to life, it's going to require different things from us. Visualization is great, but if it doesn't have the action behind it, it's probably not going to go anywhere. Now, you may have already experienced that in Pisces, where maybe you got trapped a little bit in the process of visualization or the process of emotional alignment. Maybe you did find yourself waiting for signs, or you were, allowing yourself to let things unfold more organically under the guise of divine timing, as you should, right? As you should have been, I would say. But again, this is an outdated playbook now. And as much as I love like law of attraction and stuff, and that's all well and good, it's just we have to be a little bit more geared toward what can I do? It's got to be more action oriented, more aggressive, more passionate, more tenacious than it has been. So Neptune, as he leaves Pisces, he's officially leaving rulership. Now, I want to talk about why this is a good thing, again, in terms of manifestation specifically. Because when a planet, just generally speaking, any planet is in rulership, it's extraordinarily powerful. And I really like to use Saturn in Capricorn as the example, because it's, 2020, Saturn was in Capricorn. Even the years before that, even as he moved into Aquarius, he was also in rulership. And we saw with 2020 how powerful that can be. Now, obviously, there were many other things going on, but that's probably one of the clearest examples, right? That pandemic, lockdown, everything, one of the clearest examples of what a ruling planet can do. So the thing about Neptune is he's so big and he's so powerful, but he kind of slips under the radar a lot. And it's so funny because I hear people talking about, oh, well, that's Pluto energy, or oh, that's Saturn, or oh, that's this, or oh, that's that. And I rarely hear people talk about, oh, that's Neptune, because we tend to think of Neptune as like this soft, dreamy, imaginative, fantastical type of planet, which he is and he can be. but he is also delusional, and he is a smoke and mirrors type of planet, and he does bring lots and lots of confusion and tiredness and escapism and all sorts of things that, again, living our daily lives, we may not really realize that there's such a heavy influence or such a heavy cloud over things. But now that he's leaving, I think that we'll see or feel that shroud sort of lifting. Okay, so this is going to be a really good thing to have Neptune leaving rulership, because while he was in rulership between 2011, 2012, all the way up to 2025, manifestation came with some difficulties, right? We had difficulty, or I have, well, not really, I'm going to say we have intention without anchoring. Okay, so yes, we can have all the intention in the world, but we're not grounded and we're not rooted and we don't have our feet on the ground fully. We have confusing visualization with creation. Now, visualization is a part of creation. It's usually the first part, and again, it's a good thing, but it's not really always the best for getting to the finish line. We have escapism masquerading as spirituality, which I think we saw on, well, I mean, maybe just because I was paying attention to it, I don't know, but it was kind of like on a global scale, this massive wave of spiritual growth. Again, it can be good because people learned about themselves, they healed a lot of trauma, they discovered higher consciousness, they found peace and calm in their lives in certain ways. But man, were people pulling away. There was a lot of isolation. There was a lot of like, oh, I'm going to go do my ayahuasca trip. Oh, I'm so spiritual. And oh, I'm so this. It's so much that it became an identity and it became a projection. And it may, those types of things can help, but some people may have really taken it overboard. And that's one thing about a ruling planet is sometimes it tips the scales a little too far in one direction, right? Like it takes a good thing and it amplifies and magnifies it and pulls it into an extreme to the point where it's not a good thing anymore. You know, we had very blurred desires. We had weak boundaries, so a lot of energy leaks going on there. And this really, can manifest in relationships. Perhaps there was an aspect of overhealing or overgiving, a lot of self-sacrifice, that kind of thing. We had an over-reliance on signs and symbols, really trying to figure out what things meant, right? Oh, what does it mean? And there was a lot of emphasis on what things mean. Oh, I see 1111 all the time, or oh, this was happening, or this relationship happened. What does it mean? We searched so heavily for meaning during this time and may or may not have received any answers, but I don't know that the answers are the relevant part. We also had a lot of disillusionment cycles as well. But as we're shifting, okay, so what's shifting with Neptune moving into Aries is the mentality of, I hope this happens, because you remember Pisces is faith, and actually the motto of Pisces is I believe. So it is so much about belief and faith and trust and surrender. But when it dips into Aries, it goes from I hope this happens to I'm the one who will make this happen. There's going to be a lot more conviction and a lot more oomph behind the conviction, right? Because I think maybe for some, again, I'm not saying this is every area of your life. I'm not saying every area of your life is some, dumpster fire. Probably just one area where you got a little too Neptunian. Okay, you held out for too long, you believed in people for too long, you reached for things that felt very slippery for too long. But now with Aries, I think we're going to have some traction, some real traction under our feet, that we can find a grip and actually gain movement in these areas where we just really haven't had a lot of movement for a long time. For some of you, it could be financial, which would be amazing. For some of you, it could be career. It could be romantic relationships. It could be family stuff. It could be your home, right? Whatever area. But this is going to be a relief for many, for many. So I don't want you to be afraid that this transit is going to mean any less spirituality or less intuition or less magic, because that's just simply not the case. But what it actually means is we are going to have clearer intuition, especially because Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is usually pretty direct. And that's going to be favorable because it can come and clear up any confusion that Neptune really presents. There's going to be more grounded spirituality. And, one thing I heard this from, I think it was like a Vedic person or something, like a Vedic astrologer, or perhaps it was a yoga. I can't remember. It was just some social media post. But when she said it, a massive light bulb turned on. She was specifically talking about the chakras. Okay. So she said that chakras are actually, they operate in pairs. So specifically in this example, the top crown chakra and the root chakra, they actually operate together. So the more grounded, the more secure, the more your basic needs are met, the higher the consciousness can grow. Okay, and she went through all the pairings because it goes like the root to the crown, the third eye, and the sacral, the solar plexus, and the throat, and then the heart was just kind of the center of everything. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I think that applies here. It's very grounded. It's still spiritual, but very grounded. Now, there are ideas that want to be built and visions that ask for follow through, and will be able to provide that follow through. Oh, whoops, forgot my little check mark there. This is what it actually means. Now, when he leaves rulership, we're also going to notice a decrease in anxiety overall. Okay, confusion will clear, emotional flooding will recede, and direction will become available. Now, you may have already started to really feel this in 2025 or even before that, just because Neptune is still in Aries or still in Pisces, the past few years, 24, 23, 22, doesn't mean that we weren't feeling this energy come online in anticipation of things, right? So we as a collective, we are ready for more structure, stronger boundaries, more clarity, more action, and more leadership. And we will find that. We'll find that within ourselves. We'll find that within our lives. And it's just going to be so much easier to keep those things intact. Because the one way I always describe Neptune in general, but Neptune in rulership especially, it's always like trying to grab onto a fistful of water. It's like you can reach in, grab a whole thing, but as soon as you pull it out, that water just runs out. Like it's very difficult to hold on. So that changes the game. So we're kind of making this shift from mysticism to mastery. So we don't lose spiritual gifts, we gain command over them. You don't lose your sensitivity, you gain strength. And you don't lose your dreams, you gain the courage to pursue them. Okay. So why this supports manifestation? Because manifestation works better when Neptune is not in rulership. Fantasy no longer replaces effort, intuition complements action, and faith fuels discipline. And we kind of already covered all of that already, so I'm not going to hash through that. Aries is all about motion and making sure everything stays in motion. You stay in motion. I think one of the harmful parts of Neptune in Pisces has been that withdrawal for a lot of people. Now, not everybody, again, it depends on where it was in your chart and what was going on, what natal placements you have and all of that. But there was a massive withdrawal from people, from friendships, from family members, from career paths, from lots of things, right? That because Pisces, it is the sign of isolation. It is about being alone. It is the hermit. Well, Virgo and Pisces both. It has that hermit quality to it a lot of times because we would rather be in our safe, fantasy world than to deal with the pain and the hardship and, whatever struggles come from human connection. I think Pisces very much likes to have peace and happiness. And one of the best ways for it to attain that is to find it within itself. Again, a good thing, but now it's changing and we're going to be coming back out into the world a little bit more. So there's new rules regarding how we manifest. The old rules, right? We made a vision board. New rules, we are now creating strategy boards. Okay, it's more plan oriented, more steps that I can take oriented. We would say affirmations, but now we want to track our daily momentum. I think it's important to quantify things a little bit better. We would sit and hope things aligned with the old rules, but now we simply decide now's the time, right? It's not about divine timing. I mean, yes, but as an astrologer, okay, yes, there's always going to be that, but it's not so much sitting and waiting for the perfect time, rather let's just plow through. And it is going to have more of that powerhouse plowing quality. Old rules, daydreaming about the future. With the new rules, build your future through consistent action. Now, keep in mind that personality types are also going to play into this. You may be a naturally ambitious person or a very structured person or a habitual person that just easily does those types of things. But again, probably somewhere in your life, some area, things got a little hazy. So this is your opportunity to, in that area, build and develop structure. So desire now becomes a directive. So again, moving from the Piscean energy of I am connected to everything, because that's Pisces, there's no boundaries here, to I am the one who lights the match. The drop from Pisces to Aries is pretty drastic because if you think about the whole path, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, it kind of just gets bigger and bigger, right? Aries is about the self, the individual. And then as we move through, like we make our way halfway through to Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, this area of the zodiac, it's more social, it's relationships, it's building things, it's being a member of the community, it's learning more about the world and integrating and being more of a part of it. You hit Aquarius and it becomes humanity and society and larger groups of people. And then Pisces is just everything, and it gets so big and so overwhelming. And I think this was also a time where people felt a lot of the pain of the world. It felt there's a lot of compassion that comes through with Pisces, a lot of mercy, a lot of grace, a lot of caring. But when you take on all the weight of the world, you can become debilitated, or you can become discouraged, or you can become angry. And now, okay, we're pulling it out of the clouds a little bit. It's not everything anymore. It's now just me. What can I do today to make a difference in my life that then in turn can make a difference in other people's lives? So it's a much smaller scale. And I think the smaller scale aspect is going to make it more manageable for most of us. Spiritual responsibility. Okay, this is the new version of manifesting eliminates spiritual bypassing. Again, waiting for the right moment, which I talk about a lot in this presentation, the divine timing. There is a little bit of that. Obviously, the sky, there is influence as an astrologer. I have to say that. But we're not going to just sit and wait around anymore. And also feeling like you need to heal more before starting. Feeling like you need to fix yourself. Feeling like you need to go a little deeper. You need to figure this out. You need to figure that out. To continually ask yourself, well, why do I do this? And why do I do that? And why did this, manifest this way? And what's the lesson in all of this? I have these phrases over here. One day, maybe later, once I feel ready, these ways of thinking are just going to kind of fall by the wayside. It's just going to be very natural. I'm not saying you have to sit there and convince yourself not to think this way anymore. I just think that we're going to be tired of this. We're going to get annoyed with ourselves by sitting around and waiting, So it's like, no, we're going to own up. We're going to buck up and we're going to just go for it, because what have we got to lose? Now, I really want to harp on Saturn, because now Neptune is going to move at the end of January, but the end of February, Saturn moves into Aries, and he'll be there for a couple of years. And then even after that, he'll be in Taurus. Now, I want to focus on this next 4 or 5 year period, because Saturn, I feel, is going to be especially supportive of this transit too. He has also been in Pisces the past couple of years. He's been in, and I think Pisces, what I love so much about Pisces is this is usually a place where we start to feel a lot more hope. Like, again, using the pandemic as an example, he was in Capricorn, then he was in Aquarius. And I think the world just got very cold and slow during that time. Again, it was Saturn's realm. And then, 2023 came around. That's when he moved into Pisces and we started to kind of see the light again. But Pisces is a mutable sign. It is transitionary, okay? All mutables, we tend to feel ourselves being carried from one season of life into another season. Saturn just carried us very slowly. So the ability to make these big, massive changes, it was maybe the desire was there. We were ready. We had Pluto going back and forth between Aquarius. We had, I guess 25, Neptune kind of going back and forth between Aries, but we had this sense that change was right at our fingertips, but maybe a bit of a difficulty actually implementing or making it happen. But Saturn, for the next several years, he's going to teach us a lot. Okay, so Saturn in Aries, he's going to teach us how to commit to our desires, how to take true responsibility for our choices. He's going to help us build courage that lasts longer than motivation and helps us to stay consistent even when the excitement wears off. Because we know that Aries is impulsive. We know that this is an initiating point. Where Aries struggles is completion. It doesn't tend to usually carry everything all the way to the end. So Saturn is going to ensure that we don't just get all, in our feelings today and we're going to jump up off the couch and go do this thing today, but then tomorrow we're going to be like, forget it. He's going to be like, no, you started it, now you finish it. So he's going to be kind of I like to think of him as like a coach, like a sports coach, where like he's not a cheerleader. He's not here to cheer you on. He's here to critique you, and he's here to push you, and he's here to make you go faster and do it better and go higher and, bigger, better, and just constant upward mobility. maybe in smaller increments, but still constant. And so we're going to have that little, I guess we could call him the little devil on the shoulder, since Saturn and the devil in the tarot are connected there. But to have that little devil on your shoulder, but not really a devil, more of like a coach, someone to crack the whip a little bit and say, get off your butt, go do it. Don't be lazy. Don't be sloppy. You have to finish what you've started. He's an ally, okay? So he helps you break goals into achievable steps, build routines that support your vision, say no to distractions, and develop self-trust through consistency, which is great. And then he moves into Taurus, which Saturn in Taurus is going to support your financial stability by turning money into the bank, okay? Or making sure money gets in the bank. Material security, long-term wealth building, sustainable creative output, and embodiment of value. Okay, manifestation, creation is going to turn into the money in the bank, the skills you can rely on, businesses that endure, and life that feels solid and safe. So you can kind of see how the first few years of Neptune being in Aries, I think we're lucky. I'm not saying Saturn and Aries and Taurus is going to all be roses. I mean, it's going to have its struggles too, because it's still Saturn, but ultimately it is going to be a very friendly time. Okay? Now, if you have really tough planets in Aries or Taurus, it might be more of a struggle. Or even if you have, planets over in Libra or even Scorpio in opposition, yes, okay, those oppositions can be kind of tough, but still, like the Aries and Taurus energy, I think is something that we're really craving. And even Uranus being in Taurus for the past 7 years or so, I think has just really made those archetypes, like specifically Taurus, we just haven't really had the go for it that we really want, because it's like we felt it. We felt, oh, I want to go, but we didn't really have the wherewithal to really make things happen. So this is going to be a very welcome shift, I would say. And don't forget, Uranus is moving back into Gemini in late April too. So that's going to be a whole thing in and of itself. But for now, we're just kind of talking about the next 3 to 4 years. So the big takeaway here with Saturn and Aries, because Neptune in Aries is going to ask, are you brave enough to begin? But Saturn through Aries and Taurus is going to say, are you disciplined enough to continue? Now, some people are really not going to like this, again, depending on your personal placements and your own personality. But Saturn is going to really make sure that those reins are pulled tight to make sure that you are going in the direction that you need to be going. This to me feels like kind of a no funny business type of transit. I think Saturn has given us some leeway in Pisces the past couple years, kind of taken some pressure off, but not here, because it's all about self-reliance and independence in Aries and Taurus. So it's not a time where we can look to others and expect anyone else to really do anything for us. We have to look inward and say, what am I capable of doing? What's my responsibility? What can I do to make sure my manifestations become real? And you are going to have to be the one that holds yourself to the fire to make sure that those things get done. Okay? Now, there is a little bit of a shadow I do want to talk about. We have to be careful to avoid burnout, because this transit might push you really hard, constantly for a few years. It's not just like a couple of weeks. It's like a long time. And if you're constantly feeling that sense of like, I gotta keep going, I gotta keep going, I gotta keep going, you are gonna need to take a little bit of a break, okay? There could be impulsive overreaching, forcing our timelines and expectations onto others, and turning passion into aggression. Remember, Aries is a highly competitive archetype, so you want to make sure you use that competitive spirit wisely as opposed to in a hurtful or harmful way. Okay? And that's pretty much it. So, oh, I guess not. For some reason, I thought that was the last slide. How do we manifest now? Action-based rituals, courage tracking. And I do think tracking is going to be an important part of this because that's a part of the accountability. It's a part of the assessment, right? Quantifying progress. And we have micro momentum, and that's especially for the first 4 years or so with Saturn in Aries and Taurus. It will be more on that micro scale because Saturn is going to make sure that we're doing everything high quality, we're doing it properly. So I'm not saying it has to all be slow, but little incremental, you know, progress points will get us there. And commitment itself as a form of magic or as a form of casting spells. Our faith is going to be proven through movement. Remember, I had that big slide that said motion. This is a period of time where everything is going to demand motion of the body, motion of the mind, motion of the hands, motion of the project itself. Everything needs to be in motion in order for the manifestations to transpire. So, little reflection. What dream have you been imagining but not initiating? Where have you been waiting for permission to begin? And what small action can you take today to prove your belief? This is going to be a time where you don't have to believe in order to manifest anything. And you never really did. And I think that's one of the illusionary things of Neptune and Pisces. You can just go do the thing. Belief can help, sure, it can help, but it's not a requirement for accomplishment. You can just go do it, and then you can believe that you can do it once it's already done because you literally did it. So this is how we're going to operate now. It's do the thing, believe later. Okay? And that's it. That's the end of the slide. So thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate all of you. And I know I'm doing all this whole different format thing. Although I have had a few requests to get back to the zodiac sign reading. So I will consider doing that for Aquarius season. But other than that, that is it. Thank you all so much. You guys know I love and adore you. Take care.